He rode onto her land thinking it was just another shortcut across the desert. By sunset, his horse was tied to her fence, his gun was buried in the dirt, and the woman he insulted had already decided she would own every tomorrow he had left. What began as a battle of pride would become a story neither of them could escape, and by the end, only one heart would remain standing. The desert wind had a way of making men feel larger than they were. It whispered lies into their ears, telling them they were kings if they could survive the dust, the thirst, and the silence. Wade Carter had believed those lies for most of his life. He was a drifter with a weathered hat, a scar beneath his jaw, and a name carried through too many saloons. Some said he once fought 3 men alone. Others said he abandoned a family somewhere east. Wade never corrected any story. Truth had become heavier than lies. He rode west because there was nowhere else to go. 3 days without proper water had made both man and horse weak. When he spotted green land beyond the ridge, it looked like heaven carved into hell itself. A wide valley lay beneath him, cut by a river that glimmered like silver. Fruit trees stood in neat rows. Cattle moved lazily in fenced pastures. In the center rose a large ranch house painted white against the brown earth. Wade smiled bitterly. Rich people always found ways to grow gardens in places where poor men buried bones. He pushed through the gate without asking. The moment his horse stepped onto the property, a rifle shot cracked across the valley. The bullet struck the dirt inches from his boot. Next one hits flesh. The voice came sharp as broken glass. Wade turned and saw her on the porch. She stood tall, wearing dark trousers, boots dusty from work, and a faded blue shirt with sleeves rolled to her elbows. Her hair was tied back, but loose strands moved in the wind. The rifle rested easy in her hands, as if it belonged there more than jewelry ever could. She was not old, not young, but strong in the way storms are strong. "I need water," Wade called. "You need manners first." He almost laughed. "Lady, I've crossed worse land than this." She lowered the rifle a fraction. "This land crossed worse men than you." 2 ranch hands appeared near the barn, watching closely. Neither moved. Wade dismounted slowly, hands visible. "Name's Wade Carter." "I didn't ask." He studied her face. No fear. No softness. But beneath the hard calm there was something else, pain buried deep enough to become stone. "Then what should I call you?" he asked. She stepped down from the porch. "Call me Eleanor Vale. And call me the owner of your next mistake." The ranch hands laughed quietly. Wade hated being laughed at more than hunger. He reached for his canteen. Her rifle lifted again. "Hands away from the gun on your hip first." He froze. No one had ever commanded him like that. But thirst wins wars pride cannot. Slowly, he unbuckled his revolver and dropped it into the dust. Eleanor nodded toward a trough. "Water for the horse first. Men who drink before animals aren't worth saving." Wade stared, then obeyed. That evening, he was fed beans at the back table like a farmhand. No gun. No respect. No way out before dark. He should have left. Instead, he stayed. Because something about her anger felt honest. Because something about the ranch felt alive. Because for the first time in years, someone looked at Wade Carter and saw a man who could be ordered. At dawn he woke to shouting. Smoke rose near the south fence. Riders. 6 men thundered across the pasture, firing into the air. Their leader wore a red scarf and a grin full of rotten teeth. "Morning, Widow Vale!" he yelled. "Come pay what your dead husband owed." Wade stepped outside as ranch hands scrambled. Eleanor walked onto the porch with a shotgun. "My husband owed nothing," she said. The rider laughed. "He owed fear. Since he died, you forgot to pay it." He fired at the porch rail. Wood splintered. Wade moved instinctively toward the gun rack. Eleanor blocked him. "Not your fight. They'll kill your people. They've tried before." Then she stepped off the porch and marched straight towards 6 armed men. Wade had seen brave men. He had seen foolish men. He had never seen a woman turn both into one. She stopped 10 paces away. "You burn one fence," she said. I take one hand. The leader spat. You got nerve. No, she answered. I got aim. The valley held its breath. Then Wade saw it. 2 more riders hidden in the trees behind her, circling. An ambush. Without thinking, he dove for the dropped rifle near the porch, rolled, and fired. 1 hidden rider fell. Chaos exploded. Shots rang from every side. Horses screamed. Ranch hands returned fire. Dust turned the morning blind. Wade shot again, forcing the second hidden man back. Eleanor blasted the leader from his saddle. The rest fled. Silence returned in pieces. Wade stood breathing hard, rifle smoking. Eleanor looked at him a long moment. You disobeyed me, she said. You're welcome. Then, to his surprise, she smiled faintly. It was the first soft thing on that land. You shoot better than you listen, she said. Been told worse. She walked closer. Stay 3 days, she said. Work for your meals. And after 3 days? She looked straight through him. Then I decide what to do with your future. Wade should have ridden away. Instead, he nodded. Because danger had a name now. And it was Eleanor Vale. 3 days became 3 weeks. Wade repaired fences, broke horses, hauled water, and learned that honest labor exhausted a man in cleaner ways than running ever had. The ranch hands stopped calling him Drifter and started calling him Carter. But Eleanor never called him anything except Wade, sharp and simple, like a challenge. He learned her husband had been murdered 2 years earlier by cattle thieves no sheriff dared chase. Since then, every greedy man in the territory wanted her land. She had buried grief beneath work and built walls stronger than timber. At night she sat alone on the porch with ledger books and silence. One evening Wade brought coffee. She didn't look up. You trying to charm me? No. You scare me too much for that. She almost smiled. Why'd you really come west? She asked. He stared into the dark. I had a wife once. Son too. She went still. Bandits? No. His voice cracked. Me. He told her how drink and rage had hollowed him. How he left during one winter storm after shouting words no family should hear. How pride kept him away until shame became permanent. Years later he returned to find graves. Fever had taken them both. He had been running from ghosts ever since. When he finished, Eleanor said nothing for a long time. Then she placed a hand over his scarred knuckles. Men think punishment is the same as redemption, she said softly. It isn't. No one had spoken kindly to him in years. That touch hurt more than bullets. Days later, the real threat arrived. Silas Boone, the richest cattle baron in 3 counties, rode in with 20 men and legal papers signed by a crooked judge. He claimed the Vale Ranch owed debt and would be seized at sunrise. Eleanor read the papers once, then tore them in half. Boone smiled. You can't fight money, she answered. Watch me. That night the ranch prepared for war. Wade cleaned rifles with steady hands. You can leave, Eleanor said beside him. So can you. This land is all I have. He looked at her. No, he said. It isn't. At dawn Boone's men advanced. But they found something unexpected. Neighbors. Farmers. Widows. Former workers. Families Eleanor had helped through drought and sickness. They came with wagons, shotguns, axes, and fury. The valley filled with people she had saved one quiet kindness at a time. Boone laughed nervously. This is unlawful. An old farmer spat. So are thieves. The standoff broke when Boone fired first. Then the valley answered. It was short, loud, and final. When dust settled, Boone lay wounded, his men scattered, his papers burning in the mud. The sheriff, suddenly brave with witnesses present, arrested him. Cheers rose across the ranch. But Wade stood apart. He knew what came next. Peace meant roots. Roots meant belonging. Men like him did not deserve that. He saddled his horse quietly. Eleanor found him at the gate. Running again? Leaving before I ruined something good. She stepped closer. You think too highly of your damage. He swallowed hard. I don't belong here. She took the reins from his hands. This ranch needs fences fixed. Horses trained. Books balanced poorly. A porch repaired. She paused. And I need someone stubborn enough to argue with. He stared at her. You said you'd decide my future? I did. She placed his old revolver into his palm, then closed his fingers around it, and pushed it back down. You won't need that anymore. The wind moved through the valley, softer now. What are you saying? He whispered. She met his eyes. I'm saying I own no man, Wade Carter. Her voice trembled for the first time. But if you stay, I'll share tomorrow with you. A man can survive years without mercy, but kindness can undo him in seconds. Wade dropped the gun into the dirt. Then he cried like someone finally home. Years later, travelers spoke of the Vale Ranch as the strongest land in the territory. They said no thief ever returned. They said harvests grew rich there. But those who knew the truth said the finest thing ever grown on that soil was not wheat, cattle, or fruit. It was a broken man who crossed the wrong land and found the right woman waiting. If today's story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And remember, even a small act of kindness can change someone's entire life. Red Heart.